Happy opening of Parliament ceremony today. I'm Nerissa Cornelia, here in my capacity as a former president of the Constitutional Youth Club, which played a vital and pivotal role in the restructuring of country St. Martin.
Welcome, Cornelia, and thanks for being here with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. And we also have Mr. Randolph Duggins. Mr. Duggins, can you please also introduce yourself and say good morning to the viewers?
Thank you. Good morning. Happy to be here. My name is Randolph Duggins, as Ms. Brazia said. I'm a former director at the island government of St. Martin prior to St. Martin attaining its separate status. And now I'm director or Secretary General of the Bureau Ombudsman St. Martin.
All right. Welcome to you as well, Mr.
Thank
Duggins.
you.
It's a pleasure to have you here with me this morning.
It's good to be here.
Yes. We're about to comment on the happenings of today's event. So what can we look forward for today? But before I go over to what we're going to be looking forward for, I would also like to acknowledge the presence of students and teachers of the various elementary schools across the island who are also viewing this commentary, this important event of Parliament at their respective schools by a special link that was shared with them.
Welcome
For this
to-
purpose, yes, so let's welcome. Remember that our students are also viewing and watching us
Yes.
this morning, okay? So what can we look forward to seeing today? Let's give a sneak peek on the program, of what the program looks like. So in a few minutes, we would see the lineup of the uniformed troops. They're not here as yet. So when we see the lineup, then we'll comment on them a little. At 9:15, between 9:15 and 9:30, we will see the arrival of invited guests, which can include members of Parliament. By 9:30, we will have the arrival of the High Council's State. The arrival of dignitaries from the French side is expected to arrive at 9:35. At 9:40, we will have the arrival of the Council of Ministers. And this will be our signal to start to wrap up
Yes.
this live commentary. But that will not mean the end of today's event activity. We encourage you to continue watching as the Chair Lady of Parliament opens the solemn public meeting. What you will also see is that the Chair Lady of Parliament appointing the Reception and Departure Committee, whereafter the Chair Lady of Parliament will adjourn the meeting for the arrival of His Excellency, the Governor, Ajamu Bailey. We will then witness the arrival of His Excellency, accompanied by Mrs. Bailey Colfin, and the inspection of the uniformed troops by His Excellency, the Governor. The Chair will then reconvene the meeting, and we will then have the State of Address speech by His Excellency, the Governor. This ceremonial opening will end with a military parade, which we will also be seeing as it passed through the Fun Street.
As we can see, our uniformed troops are already aligning
Yes.
on
I believe
alongside-
they are preparing to start
correct. Their march.
to march
Yes.
and line up in front of the Parliament building on Wilhelmina Straat.
Yes.
So as we await that arrival and the march, let's go over to Mr. Duggins. Mr. Duggins, why are we here today?
All right, that's a very good question. Okay, the opening of the Parliamentary is a ceremonial event that marks the official start of the parliamentary process in many democratic countries. Also, our sister islands of Curacao and Aruba are also celebrating their opening of Parliament today. It's something that is required by law, by our Constitution, that on the second Tuesday of September, the parliamentary year opens. Part of the event, the highlight of the event, as you previously indicated, is an address by the governor presenting the government's agenda for the coming year.
Great. Yes, that is indeed so. And are there any historical significance that we should bear in mind as we go through today?
Well, first, perhaps we should, the date of September, it is established in our constitution, as I said, that is the second Tuesday of September. In the Netherlands, which is, well, we are part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, it's actually the third Tuesday in September, so actually next week. And the significance of the time of the year, September, it is actually the intention as a start debating of the Parliament, of the budget of the following year, which is 2025. So that is the indication of the governor's address. And so the date itself have different meanings. First, it's symbolic, so it shows the functioning of our democracy. Secondly, it shows public accountability, and by publicly announcing the government's plan for the coming year, Parliament can then hold government responsible for the people's business. And the people as well, because the public is viewing and can see what are the government's plan for the coming year.
I like that you mentioned that. So on that note, Mr. Duggins, can you briefly explain the role of Parliament in the trias politicas?
Yes, okay, so we have a parliamentary democracy, and our system of government is based on the trias politica. Now, it is commonly known as a separation of powers. This means that government is divided in three branches. So you have the legislative branch, which is Parliament, which we are sitting right here in the House of Parliament as we speak. Then we have the executive branch, which is government, or the Council of Ministers, that this is commonly referred to. And lastly, we have the judiciary, which are the judges. Now, government approves the laws, and the executive branch government of the Council of Ministers administers the laws, and the judiciary, who are the judges, they interpret the laws in the event of disputes. So when persons go to court and there are disputes, then the judges interprets the laws and gives a verdict. So that's, in a nutshell, that is the role of the trias politica, and where Parliament, the responsibility of Parliament. And again, let me indicate that all of the three branches have its separate responsibilities, as I outlined, are all and are independent from each other.
Great. And maybe as we watch the guests arrive and comment on them, maybe we can elaborate a little more as we see each guest, the various guests arriving.
Indeed, and we've just seen actually the parade left the Wilhelmina Street, and they're coming up now.
So I believe they left close to the church.
Yes, they're gonna.
So that's the church there on the corner.
Right.
And I believe they left the church. They went through the alley, and they will come up Front Street, and then come down on Wilhelmina Street. Yes.
Correct.
So that's what's about to happen. That's what's about to happen. As we wait for them to arrive, Mr. Duggins, we often hear that St. Maarten is unique, as it is the only territory in the Dutch Caribbean that has a constitutional court. Oh, before we go over to that, we see
the Honorable Member of Parliament.
Yes, Melissa Gomes arriving. And MP Gomes is also the second Vice Chair
of Parliament. Yes. Here we have the uniformed troops with the Royal Dutch Marines at the helm, coming down on Front Street.
Yes. So
this is significant for every opening of Parliament,
yes,
right?
It is.
Where our uniformed troops march, and they arrive at the front of the House of Parliament, where their uniform is reviewed by the Honorable
inspection.
Inspection by His Excellency the Governor.
Yes. So the troops that we'll be seeing lined up here are the Marine Corps or the Royal Navy.
Right.
We have the Royal Marechaussee. We'll see the Police Corps, and also the Voluntary Corps, St. Maarten, known as the VKS. Now for the parade, because we mentioned there will be a parade,
yes,
there will be other troops, also uniformed troops joining.
Yes.
Because of the space on Wilhelmina Straat, we couldn't fit all of them here, so we're only seeing these. But later on, when the parade is taking place, we'll see other uniformed troops
adding.
Yes, added to these troops that we are seeing here.
Everyone is nicely dressed, and
So they're making sure that they have sufficient space. They want to make sure that everything is in order for the inspection.
right,
They're lined up in accordance to
their ranks.
their ranks.
Yes.
Yes.
And as Mr. Duggins mentioned, that's a trias politicas also showing
Yes.
how
Yes.
our defense is taking.
Correct.
Great.
Awesome. As we await the further guests, Mr. Duggins, you were mentioning.
Yes, indeed. You mentioned that St. Maarten is unique within the Kingdom of the Netherlands with a constitutional court. The constitutional court is actually linked to the office of the ombudsman, and what the constitutional court does, it reviews laws that seem to be in conflict with the Constitution. And the task of the ombudsman is to review these new laws that are passed by Parliament, signed into law by the government, again showing the different roles of the branches of government. So Parliament passes the law, government signs the law into existence. But before the laws go into effect, new laws, the ombudsman can challenge the law if it seems to be in conflict with the Constitution. Now, St. Maarten is very unique, as you mentioned, because there are no other countries within the Kingdom of the Netherlands that has this responsibility. While there have been discussions ongoing that Curaçao, Aruba also start a constitutional court, and even the Netherlands, as it is presently constructed in their constitution, it is forbidden for constitutional review, but there have been discussions that there's a possibility that this will change in the future.
So indeed, we are unique here on St. Maarten.
Definitely.
I have a question.
Before we go
Yes.
over into that, we just witnessed the welcoming of the Secretary Generals of the
Okay.
Government, and I'm sure we'll be seeing
Of the ministries.
the
Yes.
various ministries, the 7 ministries of
Yes.
government.
Great.
And I would like to quote them in order as long as when they come up.
When they come
I will
up.
definitely
Yes.
be able to do so. But sorry to have
That's okay.
interrupted.
So they're busy lining up.
Right, they're
Right,
busy
okay.
lining up.
So they're about to walk in. So as they walk in, we'll comment on that. We'll go back to that. But in the meantime, Mr. Duggins, as we're waiting,
Yes, so
my question was, have we ever had such a situation where the ombudsman?
yes, we have had on 3 separate occasions. We have had 3 laws that were passed have been challenged by the ombudsman in the constitutional court. The first was the penal code. I believe it was in 2013. The second and the most significant of those was the national ordinance of the integrity chamber, which was presented to the court, and the law was entirely annulled. For substantive as well as procedural reasons. We'll also mention the role of another High Council of State, which is the Council of Advice, that plays a pivotal role, who is the main advisor for government when it comes to national ordinances. And per our Constitution, all laws must be sent to the Council of Advice for advice. And in the verdict regarding the integrity chamber, it was established, and that was the main reason why the law was annulled. It's because the critical changes were made to the law, and the Council of Advice was not consulted. So that is the reason why the law was annulled procedurally. But in addition to that, there were many substantive reasons that we won't get into today that were also not in accordance with our Constitution, and it was also for that reason that the law was completely annulled by the court. And in the verdict, the court gave indications what needed to be adjusted in the new law, which was ultimately presented because we have an integrity chamber today.
Yes. And for those persons viewing and listening, if you're interested in knowing more about this law and the integrity chamber, of course, you can visit the Parliament website where all the laws are published, and that is www.sxmparliament.org. And all of the laws are published on Parliament's website. I see that we're still awaiting the arrival of the Secretary Generals of the ministries. So as we await, maybe we can have a little discussion on a little history from how we started, where we started. The members of parliament that we will be seeing arriving shortly, or that we will be seeing entering the parliament building shortly. It's interesting to note that the members of parliament that we are seeing arriving today will not be the same. Some of them might not be returning
Correct.
in 10 days.
Yes,
Right.
correct.
Right.
Because as you know, we had elections in January, and then we had snap elections in August. So the member of the parliamentarians that we are currently seeing are those that were elected in the elections of January 2019. The new parliamentarians will sit on August 20th. So what we're seeing here today, on September 20th. So what we're seeing here today has actually nothing to do with the elections that we had in August. This is a requirement per our constitution, as we mentioned earlier, that the opening of the parliamentary year is on the second Tuesday of September.
Right.
And interesting to mention, Valerie, because you mentioned that about the members of parliament today, but our first members of parliament actually sat on the 10th of October 2010, which is significantly different. As you know, in September of 2010, we actually had Netherlands Antilles elections, which actually gave us the parliament that we started with. But the first opening of parliament took place in accordance with our constitution on the 13th of September 2011.
Yes, correct. Interestingly, the first elections for our parliaments were actually Island Council elections in 2010.
Yes.
So prior to attaining the separate status.
Yes.
Correct. That's correct.
And we do have some members of parliament, or at least one, that is currently still a member of parliament from the first elected MPs.
Right.
Yes, that's right. But maybe we want to go a little bit into then having, on that note, Mr. Duggins, who were the first MPs? Can anyone remember that? Who were the first MPs?
Well, first MP Wescot-Williams, if I can remember correctly, former MP William Marlin, former MP Franz Richardson, former MP Hyacinth Richardson, former MP
George
Pantoflet, former MP Theodore Heiliger, former MP Franklin Myers.
Franklin Myers.
Yeah, actually, he was not part of the first.
Okay, all right.
It was MP, former MP Louis Levest, former MP Sylvia Myers, former MP Gracita Arundel, former MP.
Who was also the President of Parliament.
Who was also the first President of Parliament, indeed. Former MP Rhoda Arundel, former MP Jules James, former MP Romaine Laville, and former MP Dr. Lloyd Richardson, former MP Patrick Illich, and lastly, former MP Petrus Leroy de Weaver.
Okay.
15 members of Parliament.
Members of Parliament, right. And from those 15, are there any of those 15 members that are still MPs today?
Only one.
Only one.
Our Chair Lady of Parliament.
Oh.
Our current chair. Yes.
Yes.
But it's interesting to see how our parliaments have changed, but not much really, because that hierarchy remained and that history remained with our current Chair Lady.
That's right. Yes.
And it's also interesting that while Ms. Wescot-Williams is currently the only MP sitting that was initially elected back in 10-10-10, actually former MP George Pantoflet is actually, in terms of the duration, the longest sitting MP, followed by former MP Hyacinth Williams, Hyacinth Richardson.
Okay, if we look at the screen, Ms. Cornelia,
the Honourable Member of Parliament, Mr. Omar Otley, and the Chairman of the SER,
Social Economic Council, Mr.
Harlech Duran, and right thereafter, Mr.
The Secretary General
Richardson,
who is the Secretary General of the Social Economic Council.
Correct.
And we have Mr. Ari Nordam, is the general of the Royal Dutch Marines.
Royal Dutch Marines, yes.
And is
Nicely decked out in his
very nice
uniform.
in his uniform.
Yes. All right, so
Well, we
And
just
have our-
saw the chair of the Social Economic Council as well as the Secretary General. And it's good to highlight what is their
Significance.
significance. And of course, the SED is an advisory body of government, and they provide advices to government and parliament on social economic issues and laws. And before these laws are finally presented, that government can request an advice provided on a specific socio-economic issue.
Right.
that's right. That's right. That's right. And to bring it back to Parliament, I'm getting a little distracted looking at the
Right.
screen to see what's
Right.
coming,
Right.
because we really don't want to miss
Anyone.
the arrival of the guests.
Right.
Yes, and allow the viewers to know who they are and who is arriving. But it seems as if we have a little break in between. So let's discuss a little about, bring it back home to Parliament again, because we mentioned that this event happens on every second Tuesday
Right.
of every year.
Of September.
Of
Of
September.
September.
Right.
Of September, every second Tuesday of September, each year, over and over again. Now we know that there have been times when St. Maarten have been through some challenges. One of those challenges were Hurricane Irma,
2017.
2017,
Yes.
and then we also saw the pandemic,
Correct.
COVID pandemic.
2020.
What happened?
Yes, as we mentioned, it's a constitutional requirement. So under any circumstances, this day should proceed as a ceremony, as a formal opening of the parliamentary year. So though it did take place in
Yes.
back in 2017. It took place. I believe the Parliament building sustained some damages. So
Serious damages?
the
Yes,
formal opening of Parliament with a small closed group of course, with the Governor and the Council of Ministers and some members of Parliament. It took place at the Government Administration Building.
Yes, yes,
That was the week after Hurricane Irma. So there was no electricity, perhaps no water, but
Democracy prevails.
democracy prevailed, and it did continue.
And they continued.
And then during COVID, it was, as we can recall, with the advent of Zoom and other
Yes, it took place
platforms,
virtually.
opening of the parliamentary year took place virtually.
Right, right. Now, let's go back to Hurricane Irma, because we're seeing all the lovely guests and the lineup of the uniformed troops, etc. But as Mr. Duggins mentioned, it was downscaled.
Right.
And I wanted to add that it was very downscaled because we did not see much of the persons in the room. I recall being present as well, and not much persons were in their suits, the ladies in their lovely dresses,
Right.
none of that.
Right.
But the event had to take place. So it was still memorable and something that we can put down in the history of St. Maarten again, that eventually we, with the resilience people that we are,
Correct.
we made sure that we uphold our Constitution.
Yes.
Definitely.
And it took place. Oh, I see a very important...
Yes. A former,
So let's see if we can make it to the red carpet. Yes. So we have here former member of Parliament, Lloyd Richardson,
And also a former chairperson
Yes.
of Parliament.
also a former chairperson of Parliament. Right. So on that note, this year we did something a little different. We look at our guest list, and we also added former chairpersons or presidents of Parliament. So we will be seeing.
Oh, nice.
Yes, we will be seeing chairpersons of Parliament arriving, and maybe when we see them coming, we can single out who they are. So we just saw former member of Parliament and former president of Parliament, Mr. Lloyd Richardson.
Who was also one of the first members of Parliament to
Yes.
sit in 2010. So we see that significance also coming
Coming
back.
back. Yes.
Yes, where
Yes.
we're
Yes.
honoring our
Yes.
former members, but also former chairs of Parliament.
Correct,
Because
correct.
that's also a significant position. I mean,
Definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Yes, definitely.
So coming back
definitely.
to what you were mentioning, Valerie,
Yes.
in upholding our constitutional rights
Rights.
and our responsibilities, the opening of Parliament took place in 2017, very solemn, different, but the Constitution prevailed, and you see also the importance of Parliament
Correct.
in doing what we're supposed to do. We have another
Guests
guest
arriving.
arriving in a hat.
Yes.
I think it's significant to mention.
Oh, yes,
we've
it's significant to
seen that.
mention that. Okay. So we will see. So on our guest list, we have, okay, there we have.
Here we
mhm.
have the Director of the National Recovery Program Bureau,
Yes.
Mr. Clarence Connor, who is also a
former member of Parliament and
and a
also
former chair of Parliament.
Yes,
Yes, and we see that significance coming back again with what you
Yes,
just
and
mentioned.
it's also good to mention what we were just mentioning is actually a good segue because the NRPB was, the genesis was after the devastation of Hurricane Irma. So the National Recovery Program Bureau is the ones that is guiding the restructuring or the rebuilding process of St. Maarten after the devastation of the hurricanes.
Another very significant figure about to hit the red carpet, our former Honorable His Excellency, actually,
Yes.
Governor Eugene Holiday, who I think laid the fabric for country
St. Maarten.
and did so diligently over his 12 years as
That is
serving as the Excellency in St.
Governor.
Martin.
Yes,
And
it's
we
an
thank
honor.
him for his service and his
Yes.
And
very
also,
big shoes to fill.
Important note, even prior to becoming governor, he
Right.
was one of the main advisors that in the
Charting.
leading up to
country
10-10-10.
St. Martin.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. And of course, it's an honor for us to have him in our presence.
Definitely,
always. This morning.
definitely.
This morning.
We were accustomed to having him do the opening, give the address,
Yes,
and
the state
also
address. Yes.
evaluate the uniformed troops.
Yes, yes.
But we now have a new governor who will be
yes,
doing that
yes.
this year
So
again.
yes, so we are grateful that he accepted the invitation to
Right.
nonetheless be here with us.
Definitely.
Yes, yes,
Definitely.
yes, a very respectful person in our community.
Yes. So as we segue back into the discussion, we were mentioning Irma, but then we had COVID as well, which
Yes, we had
we also
COVID.
see the democratic process continue.
Continues.
Yes.
And no matter what, because even though we are in that little hurricane belt as opposed to our sisters in the kingdom, we still ensure that our democratic process is upheld.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
upheld.
Here
Okay,
we
there we have
have-
Mr. Ross Bushman.
Bushman, yes.
Bushman.
It's significant,
Yes.
Valerie, because we have a farmer.
Yes. Now it's good to know that we see Mr. Bushman coming walking. Nice, and I'm sure he's saying blessings.
Of course, of course.
Yes. So what we're seeing here, why do we have Mr. Bushman? We want to ask, why is he here? Why is he part of the guest list? Because today, it's important that we point out that today, usually for parliament meetings, the public are invited to attend. But today is by invited
Yes.
Guests only.
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 Right. So
Ah.
only invitees, persons who receive an invitation, are allowed to enter the parliament building and take seat. And every year we would have a theme for the opening, and this year our theme, our highlight is agriculture.
Okay.
Yes, and the
Okay.
importance of keeping our agriculture. So we have invited a couple of farmers who will also be receiving special recognition from the chair lady.
Lovely.
Yes, later on today. So that is why we saw Mr. Bushman, and we'll see other farmers arriving. I see.
The Council
The
of
Council
Advice
of Advice
is arriving.
Secretary Director.
Yes, correct.
Yes, and the Vice Chair, Mrs. Richardson
Nicolas.
Nicolas, who, as we know, replaced Mrs. Brooke Salmon,
Yes,
who is
yes,
no
yes,
longer
yes,
with
yes,
us, but
yes.
she's keeping that legacy of wearing those beautiful hats.
Yes. I'd see as she arrived, as she walked towards the red carpet. And on that note, we can also see her back is turned to us, but there we have the
Yes, the first acting.
Secretary General of Parliament
Yes,
receiving the High
And-
Council, members
yeah.
of the High Council.
And we also see that the chair of the audit chamber,
right, with the
as well as
SG.
the Secretary General, just
Yes.
arrived, as well as the Ombudsman.
Correct.
Correct.
So in the
So,
front, we have the audit chamber.
Yes. The
We
audit
have the
chamber,
ombudsman.
Mr. Alphonse Gomes, and Mr. Keith de Jong, his Secretary General from the
Correct.
General Audit Chamber. And then we have Ms. Gwendolyn Mossel, our ombudsman.
Yes, so, and these bodies are commonly referred to as the High Councils of State.
Right.
And what their main task is they assist Parliament in their supervisory role of government. So in the case of the Ombudsman, who's walking all the way in the back, they investigate complaints of the public against government. The Audit Chamber investigates whether our government is spending our finances wisely. And as I mentioned previously, the Council of Advice provide advices to legislations.
Okay, I see we have here also President Mussington,
Yes.
President of the collectivité
Yes,
of the
correct.
French Saint Maarten,
And he's
arriving,
accompanied by his entourage.
protocol officer.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
And that shows that collaboration between the two sides, where
Yes.
we support them and they support us in our
Correct,
functioning, but also that cultural
Yes.
openness of being together.
Being together.
One island.
One
One
island,
island.
correct. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Mussington. Great.
As we await the additional members, Mr. Duggins, you were mentioning that significance of the high councils, and I think it's very educationally informative to our students who are watching with us. That significance of the high councils should be maybe further
Yeah,
expounded.
so as I mentioned, they each have their own separate responsibilities.
Before we go over,
We
yes.
go over to Ms. Richelda Emmanuel, who is the Secretary of the Court,
Correct.
and she has a representative of the court with her.
Yes.
Yeah, so as I was mentioned, they play a pivotal role in our democracy and supporting Parliament in their supervisory role. And these institutions are independent. It is
President.
confirmed in our Constitution.
Right.
We just saw the President of
chairlady
the
of
chair lady,
Parliament.
President of Parliament arriving. Okay.
MP Wescot-Williams in a
Yes.
beautiful floral dress, and of course, she also is wearing a hat.
Yes. Which she quite
Often does, yes.
Quite often she
And-
wears her
and
hat.
Before we get sidetracked again, the hat significance, I really want to mention it because culturally speaking, we don't normally have it, but on the opening of Parliament Day since 1977, we've seen it around the kingdom, where it's
Yes.
yes,
So we
and
see arriving
MP La Cruz.
La Cruz.
And the special representative of
GB.
NVGEBE, Mr. Troy Washington.
So the acting director, I
coming
believe.
in, yes. There we go. So yes, as I was mentioning with the hat significance, since 1977, in the kingdom, it's known to see that uptake of the hat wearing on the opening of Parliament Day. Not necessarily on other occasions, but significantly for the opening of Parliament.
And before on St. Maarten, we didn't see so many ladies wearing the hats, but today, almost the majority of them that pass
Yeah, they're wearing
are
hats.
wearing a hat.
Yeah.
It's wearing a hat. So that's good to know. That's good to point out, Narissa. Thanks for sharing that.
Definitely.
Yes. So there we see our uniformed troops.
Eagerly awaiting the arrival of our guests.
Yes. So as we continue to await the arrival of another guest, I see a white vehicle, so that's probably means
The
some.
Honorable Minister of Vromi,
Yes.
Mr. Patrice Gomes,
Yes.
who's taking the red carpet. And I see also the Integrity Chamber right
Correct.
behind him, the
Correct.
Director, and the President.
Yes. Director and the president. I'm sure they're allowing them to stand on the side a while so that they can take their walk on the red carpet.
Right. Here we have Ms. Sharna Pompier, the Director
Yes.
of the Integrity Chamber,
Yes.
and Mr. Rick Bergman, who is the President of the Integrity Chamber.
Okay.
And of course, the task of the Integrity Chamber is to advise government on integrity issues and also to investigate integrity breaches within government or government bodies.
Right. And right behind them, I see the Honorable Minister of Finance.
Yes, I'm
Ms.
sure.
Marinka Gomes.
I believe why they're putting them on the side because the
Yeah.
Council of Ministers usually walks in Together.
arrived together.
Okay, this is also French
French,
dignitary.
yes, yes, it's
So
a-
this is a representative of the cabinet of the prefecture.
Prefecture,
Yes,
correct,
the prefecture
yes.
was unable to attend this time. He sent his excuses, but he did send a representative from his cabinet. Yes.
Lovely.
So I believe the ministers are waiting the arrival of the other ministers because they usually come in together
Right.
as the body,
Right.
Council of Ministers.
And see the Honorable Minister of Justice and the Acting Honorable Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport.
As well as the
Mr.
Minister of Finance is
Yes.
already there.
Yes, correct.
Miss Marinka
She's,
Gao.
she's joined the Honorable Minister of Romy.
They've seen everybody now. They've seen all of the come. This
Yes.
is
We eagerly await the arrival of the following members of the Council of Ministers.
Mhm.
There we have the Honorable Minister of VSA,
Yes.
also wearing a hat,
Veronica
Ms.
Janssen.
Veronica Janssen Webster.
Webster. Okay. So after the entrance of the Council of Ministers, where we see the arrival of the Council of Ministers, we have another member of
Another member of
Parliament
Parliament.
arriving,
Yes,
Roseberg.
Ms.
Also in her hat.
Roseberg.
MP Roseberg.
And then we have the Honorable Minister of TI, Ms. Grisha Heilige Maarten, also joining the council.
Yes. So as we see the Council of Ministers preparing to make their entrance, that will bring us close to the end of our commentary
Right.
remarks for today. But that does not mean, as I mentioned earlier, that the program for today has ended. Because as they go in, then the solemn public meeting will begin. So as we see the Council of Ministers enter the building, we'll start to take farewell. It was short. It went by very quickly.
Yes, it did.
It did.
but it was very informative.
Yes.
For me it was.
Yes.
I hope
was a
our
good
audience-
start.
It was a good start. It was a good start.
The Honorable Prime
Prime Minister
Minister,
And the
Dr.
Secretary
Luke
General.
Marcelino, and the Secretary General of the Council
Of Ministers.
of Ministers.
Okay, so the
And
Council of Ministers is
they're lined
now
up.
taking their place to walk into the Parliament building. They'll be escorted by the first, the second, the
Informal.
first, yes, the first vice, the first secretary, the
First acting Secretary General of the
Parliament.
Parliament. Wow.
It's a long time.
So we just saw former President Bijlani
Right,
also.
right. He just arrived, and I also
Yes.
see the President of the Chamber of Commerce also next to him.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. So they're
The council
being
is being
escorted on the red carpet.
I also see the Vice Chair of the Central Voting Group, Ms. Sandy Finger, also on the side, waiting to join.
And that's the
Yes.
Secretary General of the Council of Ministers,
Ms. Cassandra Youngson.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Yes, we see Ms. Sandy Finger,
Finger.
Vice Chair of the
Central
Central Voting Bureau. And as mentioned, Ms. Peggy Ann Brandon,
Also from
the
the
chair, the President of the Chamber
Chamber
of
of
Commerce and
Commerce.
Industry.
Yes.
Settlement.
Okay. Yes. So as they prepare to walk in, I think it's important to ensure, because Mr. Duggins also need to take his place
Yes, correct.
as an invited guest
Yes.
in the meeting hall. We don't want to have him miss the opening by the President of Parliament. So there we have
Ms.
Ms.
Peggy
Peggy,
Ann
Ms.
and Ms.
Ofringa.
Ofringa. And before
Okay.
we close, here we have the Director
Oh.
of the Central
Yes.
Bank of Curacao and St. Martin,
St.
Joining
Martin
us.
St. Martin
yes.
of
office,
St. Martin
correct.
office, Ms. Raquel Lofowang.
For one, yes. Awesome. Yes. All right.
Yes.
So within
And
short,
Honorable MP Irian at the back, waiting to join the ranks as well.
okay, great. And MP Duran will
Join
also
him.
join in and take his seat as a member of Parliament
Right.
in the meeting hall. Yes.
And with that, I'd like to thank you, Valerie, for the opportunity for being here with you today.
Well, I want to thank you, Larissa, for taking the challenge and accepting to be here with me, and of course, Mr. Duggins also.
It was my honor, and I enjoyed doing it. I think these exercises are good, and it's something that we should consider for the future.
Definitely, we'll continue to consider this. This was a start. It was the first time that we did this, and it was a very interesting discussion. Yes, it was. And we would also like to express words of thanks, much gratitude to Mr. Eugene, former Governor Dr. Andis Eugene Holiday, for his assistance and generosity in providing the outline of today's discussion. So definitely we have to outline our former governor, Mr. Holiday. And also we want to thank the tech team and DCOM and their entirety for helping us to make this possible.
Yes, indeed.
The technical team and other staff of Parliament. So those that have decorated the room for us and make sure that we were well served, right, and comfortable here this morning. And of course, we also want to thank the Secretary General of Parliament, Mr. Garrick Richardson, for allowing and approving this to happen. And I'm sure we'll get his approval to continue with it going forward. And then finally, I also want to thank you, the viewers, for being active, for being an active audience. We encourage you to continue viewing the live coverage of this ceremonial opening of the parliamentary year 2024-2025. I am your host. I was your host for today, Miss Valerie Brazier, and it was a pleasure commenting to you. We now go over to the meeting hall.
Guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this ceremonial meeting on the occasion of the opening of the new parliamentary year that is about to commence. Allow me to make some announcements to ensure an orderly exit from the hall by all present when the meeting is closed. Right before the ending of the meeting, His Excellency the Governor and his entourage will be escorted by the reception and departure committee to the conference room. Upon the return of the committee to the hall, the President of Parliament will close the meeting. The President of Parliament and the Prime Minister will then leave the hall, accompanied by the Secretary General of Parliament and the Secretary General of the Council of Ministers, to join His Excellency in the conference room. This will be followed by the dignitaries representing the French side of the island. After that, the members of Parliament, ministers, and the remainder of the guests will leave the hall to make their way to the Saraswati Square to view the parade. After viewing the parade, all dignitaries and guests will have a brief moment to interact with the elementary school students before proceeding to the reception venue via the Saraswati Square and the boardwalk. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the entrance of the Council of Ministers. The Prime Minister of St. Maarten, the Honorable Dr. Luc Mercelina, accompanied by the Secretary General of the Council of Ministers. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the entrance of the President of Parliament. The President of Parliament, the Honorable Sarah Wescot-Williams.
Members of Parliament, support staff, radio listeners, TV viewers, those following via social media, and members of the media. We have established a quorum of 13 members, and I wish to open this solemn meeting, which has been convened to open the parliamentary year 2024-2025 as prescribed by our Constitution in Article 46, Paragraph 2, which states that the parliamentary year begins on the second Tuesday of September with a speech by or on behalf of the governor of the policies of the government in a meeting convened to that end by Parliament. I invite all to stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. I have received notice of absence from the Member of Parliament MP Christophe Emmanuel. For this special occasion, we have several invitees who I now would like to welcome. The honorable members of Parliament, the honorable ministers of the Council of Ministers, the honorable Vice President of the Court of Justice, the honorable President of the Collectivité of Saint Maarten, the Vice Chair Lady of the Council of Advice, Chairman of the General Audit Chamber, the Ombudsman, Chairperson of the Social Economic Council, President of the Integrity Chamber, Vice Chair Lady of the Central Voting Bureau, Chairperson of the Corporate Governance Council, Chief Public Prosecutor, Secretary General of the Council of Ministers, Secretary General of the Courts, Secretary Director of the Council of Advice, Secretary General of the General Audit Chamber, Secretary General of the Ombudsman, Secretary General of the Social Economic Council, Director of the Integrity Chamber, Secretaries General to the Ministries of Government, Director of the Cabinet of the Governor, Commander of the Military Detachment on Saint Maarten, Commander of the Voluntary Corps, Head of Customs, Head of the Coast Guard Support Station of Saint Maarten, Director of the Central Bank of Curaçao and Saint Maarten on Saint Maarten, Director of the National Recovery Program Bureau, President of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Director of the Saint Maarten Nature Foundation, President of the Youth Parliament, Director of the Saint Maarten Youth Brigade, former Governor, former Presidents of Parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I will now appoint the members of the Reception and Departure Committee, and for this committee, I appoint MP Egbert J. Doran, MP Viren V. Kotai, and MP Shamira D. M. Roosburg. I will now adjourn the meeting so the members of the Reception and Departure Committee can proceed to the entrance of the Parliament building and wait at the stairs to receive and escort His Excellency the Governor and his entourage to the General Assembly Hall of Parliament. I hereby adjourn this meeting.
Sorry? Okay, wait a minute. Let me move. Let me move. Wait, hold on. Yeah, yeah. Pull up the door. Hold. Hey! Come up on the boat! Set off! Come on! Switching back to the wife. Yeah. Hold on, I'm planning switch to Larry.
I hereby reopen this meeting of Parliament, and I invite all to rise for the arrival of His Excellency, the Governor. I welcome His Excellency, the Governor, and his entourage to this solemn meeting, which has been convened to open this new parliamentary year with a speech by His Excellency, the Governor, on the policies of government for this new year. I now invite the Governor to take the floor for his address to Parliament. Your Excellency.
Madam Chairlady, Members of Parliament, Council of Ministers, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As stipulated in our Constitution, I stand before you in my capacity as Governor on the second Tuesday in September to present you with an outline of the policy to be pursued by government in the coming parliamentary year. Country St. Maarten is at a critical turning point in its development. From the devastating hurricanes of 2017 to the COVID-19 pandemic and the current utility crisis, St. Maarten continues to contend with recovery efforts and sustainable development. Sustainable development requires an environment that is enabling, an environment that is conducive with equity and equality for the greater good. However, achieving such requires a foundation built on good governance. Good governance embodies an effective and efficient government. This embodiment is dependent on adequate coordination, collaboration, and cooperation between ministries and between ministries and the Council of Ministers. Considering that this is a complex relationship governed by procedures for collaboration to facilitate the management and communication of the entire public administration, as such, effective interministerial coordination and cooperation is seen as key in governing, as a collapse of internal governance structures results in maladministration. Currently, government's administration, whether in policy formation or operations, is compartmentalized or siloed, which limits the level of coordination and cooperation needed for strategic planning and decision-making. This should not be the case, especially as government struggles with the lack of capacity and resources, as well as the ongoing developmental challenges. The baseline study of the public administration identifies conformity as the main issue. As the procedures, rules, and regulations are in place, conformity issues are related to the fact that an integrated public administration working to implement unity of government policy is largely absent. Roles, responsibilities, and moreover, accountability needs to be in balance in order for any organization to achieve its objectives and purpose. Currently, the work focus and use of resources is to maintain recurrent operational tasks. There is an inability to manage programmatically, thereby leading to inefficiencies and ineffectiveness, distorted decision-making, and strategic management. The current case of public governance needs to realign with its original institutional design and procedures of Country St. Maarten. Moreover, there is a need to finalize the institutional design of Country St. Maarten. Off the heels of the effects of Hurricanes Irma and Maria and the COVID-19 pandemic, the government of St. Maarten has deployed the National Development Vision of St. Maarten, NDV. The NDV is a first step in the direction of strategic planning and long-term sustainable development. The baseline study of St. Maarten's development from a government perspective has revealed that St. Maarten is still transitioning in building government infrastructure and an enabling environment to operate autonomously as a country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. The transition process essentially requires St. Maarten to build a whole government infrastructure, including the effective exercise of a new government system from scratch, whilst at the same time maintaining public services. Despite a great deal of local planning undertaken to effect the transition by 2012, momentum and efforts have faltered. From 2010 to date, St. Maarten has had several changes in government. Changes in the executive branch brings along a varying manner in the handling of the public administration. This in particular as it pertains to top-down management of the ministries. As such, operational and strategic governance is in particular impacted as every government tends to govern in a different manner. Albeit the case, this should not continue to negatively affect the functioning of government, as the framework of the public administration serves as the operational anchor for the public administration and good governance. Taking the aforementioned into consideration, it is imperative that the institutional design of Country St. Maarten is completed and fully enacted, anchored adequately to ensure not only continuity, but moreover, ensure strategic and operational governance. Change in the executive branch should not equate to the complete and continuous disruption of the public administration, as processes, rules, and regulations remain in place. To effectuate such, currently under development are a series of instruments and initiatives that will support a whole government approach to high-level management. The objective of this approach is to streamline efforts and resources, anchor high-level management, enhance integration of efforts, and establish a knowledge-based public service. These 4 instruments and initiatives are: 1, strengthening strategic and operational performance through management platforms, the SG and policy platform. These 2 platforms form an integral part of coordination and collaboration within the public administration, with as objective safeguarding the uniformity, interministerial coordination, and cooperation to ensure integration and unity. This requires political maturity. Political maturity to complete the institutional design of Country St. Maarten and implement accountability and transparency. But moreover, political maturity to understand the role of government in governing for the future, the long-term future. 2, enhancing donor relations through a funding desk, the special envoy, and the hub. St. Maarten is eligible for a range of funding. However, accessibility to funding is not the challenge. The challenge lies more in the areas of governance, project development writing and management, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. Exacerbating the aforementioned is the lack of adequate financial management and having annual audited accounts to secure donor funding. Therefore, to support the communities of St. Maarten in the area of donor relations, a funding desk is being developed that will provide not only insight into funding streams and requirements, but also support varying aspects surrounding requests for funding, such as providing trainings and review of aspects related to governance. Government has also decided to make use of the special envoy The special envoy will serve as a direct partner in the identifying, lobbying, and securing donor funding for St. Maarten. In addition to the aforementioned, is the pilot project funded through the Resembid program and implemented by Expertise France, better known as the Hub. The Hub is a facility that will support the overseas countries and territories, OCTs, in pursuing development financing. This is a shared space where the OCTs can connect, strategize, share, and collaborate on development issues, strategies, and activities in priority areas. The Hub will also support the OCTs on the technical level with donor envelopes, not only by identifying relevant envelopes, but also in supporting the application process, program, and project management of projects under the guidance of the respective OCT. Furthermore, the Hub will act as an information and knowledge-based facility for OCTs. 3, mainstreaming national development. In 2022, the government of St. Maarten concluded and launched the National Development Vision. The National Development Vision is a high-level shared vision that highlights the vision statement of St. Maarten along with the respective development themes and goals to 2030 and beyond. Government continues to ensure alignment with the visionary goals, alignment of the Sustainable Development Goals, the Small Island Developing State Programs, ministry plans, governing programs, and the country reform package. And 4, underpinning disaster risk management. A critical characteristic of St. Maarten is the geographical position on the hurricane belt, compounded by the effects of climate change. Government continues to deploy measures to support these challenges. This is done by reinforcing disaster risk management through the development of an Office of Disaster Management, funded through the EU Resembid program. Implemented by Expertise France, the Project Office of Disaster Management is well underway. With the inception phase finalized, the next steps are workshops to determine tasks, roles, and responsibilities along with lines of communication. A critical aspect of the Project Office of Disaster Management includes the linking of climate change to disaster risk management. This is a critical component of the project, as having mitigation and prevention efforts in place will limit the effects of disasters and moreover incorporate climate change in decision-making processes, resulting in minimized impacts. In addition, and also funded by the Resembid program, is the Early Warning System project. This project is of great significance for St. Maarten, as it will create a framework for early warning. This framework will include the required processes, standardized messaging in varying languages, as well as identify the most suitable technologies for early warning for St. Maarten. Government has also acquired technical assistance for a national climate change report on St. Maarten. This project aims to develop a climate change report of St. Maarten and to lay the groundwork for the development of a national climate change adaptation plan. As it pertains to finance, government aims to design a macroeconomic framework to achieve and maintain long-term financial stability. This entails establishing strong and healthy financial management and oversight, ensuring government control. Government is in the process of restructuring and redesigning the tax system. The goal is a robust tax system with a broad base, contributing to a fair distribution of income, stimulating the economy, ensuring feasibility and controllability by the tax authorities, increasing the efficiency and effectiveness of the tax collection process, and simplifying the tax system. These initiatives aim to improve government budgeting, strengthen fiscal policy, support new enterprise establishment, enhance existing business productivity, and contribute to national welfare and prosperity. Madam Chairlady, members of Parliament. Presently, the focus for government as it pertains to public health is on better understanding the impact of non-communicable diseases, NCDs, mental health, and healthy lifestyle choices. Government is currently carrying out the PAHO-WHO NCD STEPS survey. This is a national population survey to assess the prevalence of NCDs and their biological and behavioral risk factors. This acquired information is important to help prioritize and develop relevant prevention programs such as health promotion campaigns, population screening programs, guidelines for early detection and management of diseases at the primary care level, including lifestyle counseling, and guidelines for the management and follow-up of people with NCDs by specialized healthcare services. Given the issues surrounding mental health, government has continued to prioritize the appropriate steps needed to execute the necessary improvements to support the mental health sector in St. Maarten. These steps include, but are not limited to, the development and improvement of legislation, the development of an updated national mental health plan, the development and implementation of a mental health project via the National Recovery Program Bureau, NRPB, and securing the realization of a new mental health facility. The 4 countries in the Kingdom have established structured 4-country consultation meetings to strengthen collaboration on social and labor aspects. A vision document is currently being prepared to be approved by all 4 countries in a consultation meeting scheduled for October. A pilot project was carried out by a joint task force between the ministries of VSA, Justice, and TEAT to regulate illegal employment of foreign workers, and the report for this was recently compiled and will be analyzed to further determine if these attempts were beneficial before moving towards formal changes in regulations. For the remainder of 2024 and into 2025, government continues to work on the following policies and legislations in the area of health, social, and labor reform: establishing a general health care insurance, an unemployment fund, and poverty alleviation, especially amongst the elderly, and an additional amendment to Book 7, Title 10 of the Civil Code, regulating labor agreements. Government is working to establish a sustainable solid waste management system across the island, with the ultimate goal of creating a waste authority responsible for all waste management activities, including setting tariffs and fees. A budget proposal for 2025-2027 is being developed along with a scenario analysis model to determine the Waste Authority's revenue needs beyond 2028. Plans are also underway to procure waste collection services from 2026 onwards, with a focus on improving waste collection and preventing illegal dumping. Government is drafting a comprehensive long-term strategy in the form of a national housing policy. The housing policy will not only address the immediate need for more housing units, but will also consider the quality and sustainability of these homes. It will ensure that our social housing projects are built to withstand the challenges of our unique environment and provide a safe and healthy living environment for the residents of St. Maarten. Madam Chairlady, Members of Parliament, the United Nations Office for Project Services, UNOPS Prison Project. The new prison project consists of 2 phases. Phase 1, with a duration of 20 months, started in the second quarter of 2023 and focuses on the design and procurement of a sustainable and effective prison that meets international human rights standards and promotes the reintegration of convicts into society. This phase, amounting to approximately $4 million, is fully funded by the Netherlands. The design is expected to be completed in the third quarter of 2024, whereafter the tender for the construction of the new prison will be published in January 2025. Phase 2 of the project includes the construction of a sustainable and effective prison that ensures adequate, safe, and humane detention. Currently, the total cost of construction of the new prison has been estimated at $51.6 million. For Phase 2, an amount of $29.5 million has been reserved in the capital expenditure budget of St. Maarten for 2024, and a multi-year amount of 10 million guilders for 2025. The Netherlands has made an amount of 20 million euros available for Phase 1 and 2 of the project. The new prison will be completed in 2028. As a result of the increase in incidents involving firearms in the past few months, the police force is currently working on a crime image analysis for St. Maarten. This crime image analysis is also being produced at a regional level in cooperation with all countries within the Kingdom. These analyses are used for the strategic choices regarding the approach to crime and organized crime. The Emergency Recovery Program, ERP1, has repaired 19 hurricane-damaged schools. School gym and sport facility repairs are pending, while the Rahul Illich Sport Complex has had its artificial turf replaced and the athletics track replacement is underway through government-funded investments. The Fostering Resilient Learning Project, with approximately $26.8 million from the Trust Fund, continues preparations to rebuild 2 inclusive schools, restore library services, and develop the ministry's management information system. Demolition of the Sister Marie Laurent School and the Charles Leopold Bell School is scheduled for the 3rd quarter of 2024. These schools are anticipated to open in 2026 and 2027, respectively. Ongoing policy developments in education sector include special needs education roadmap, foundation-based education evaluation, assessment of education infrastructure, language policy, literacy and numeracy strategy assessment, framework for higher education accreditation, and roadmap for higher education ordinance implementation. Efforts continue to develop policies for tangible and intangible cultural heritage, aiming for a UNESCO reporting point and co-ratification of the Underwater Heritage Treaty. The Business Outreach and Placement Program, BOP, provides youth with labor market skills. This year's program recently ended with no less than 117 participants and a record number of employers from the private sector. Madam Chairlady, members of Parliament, this brings me to the state of the economy. St. Maarten has shown a robust post-pandemic recovery, driven by stayover tourism and construction. GDP growth is forecasted at 4.3% for 2024, showcasing levels back to normalcy. This growth has been bolstered by accelerated reconstruction activities, supported by significant disbursements from the Trust Fund, new construction via private investments, and by an increase in stayover tourism. Inflation in St. Maarten is projected to increase slightly, primarily influenced by global trends, particularly from our main trade partner, the United States. The unemployment rate is forecasted at 5.4% in 2024. This is down from 7.6% in 2021. Stayover arrivals are anticipated in 2024 to be 400,000, approximately a 10 to 15% increase of arrivals in comparison to 2023, and drawing us closer to our figures pre-Irma and Maria. In 2024, we expect 1.4 million cruise passengers. Cruise arrivals have taken a few years to recover, and by extension, increase in passenger arrivals as well. However, we do anticipate further growth this year and by extension in 2025, especially after the FCCA conference that is planned to take place here in October 2024. Efforts of getting the marketplace reconstruction completed is also imperative for the industry alongside beautification and revitalization of Philipsburg to ensure economic activity remains and passenger experience is enhanced to build loyalty. With the aim of improvement of the economic and investment climate, projects are about to start, in particular, to address the legislative concerns to ensure that doing business in St. Maarten can be made easier. Legislative work is near completion and thus making it one step closer to the Gaming Authority, which will assist with the required regulations for safe and responsible gaming while addressing social issues. In the area of agriculture, livestock, and fisheries, government is ensuring to stimulate the sector in various ways, namely the Green Overseas Program, Train the Trainer hydroponics in school and communities, establishing industry standards and requirements, working alongside neighboring islands to ensure food security, which includes the French side and the islands such as Saba, St. Eustatius, St. Kitts and Nevis, Dominica, and the Dominican Republic, and securing education programs and funding for business opportunities in the sector. Government is planning a review of the current structure and processes in regards to public transportation and defining a way forward for the industry, noting the challenges, cost, and taking into account innovative ways to enhance the experience of residents and visitors alike. Data gathering and research analysis is planned to update the existing national energy policy, given the various challenges and commitments, not only of the country, but but that also of our utility company for synergy and sustainability purposes. Government is also determined to establish the St. Maarten Tourism Authority. Government is committed, as always, to monitoring economic trends and employment indicators, allowing for adaptation of strategies and policies, effectively ensuring sustained economic growth and prosperity for St. Maarten. Madam Chairlady, members of Parliament, I started off today by stating that country St. Maarten is at a critical turning point in its development, that it is imperative that the institutional design of country St. Maarten is completed and fully enacted, anchored adequately to ensure not only continuity, but moreover, ensure strategic and operational governance, and that this requires political maturity. Our key socioeconomic and financial indicators are looking promising, but attaining and maintaining sustainable economic growth that leads to prosperity for St. Maarten requires, as previously stated, political maturity to understand the role of government in governing for the long-term future. Madam Chairlady, members of Parliament, your role in this is paramount. Country St. Maarten is at a critical turning point in its development. Madam Chairlady, members of Parliament, in this new parliamentary year, government will once again present you with various legislative initiatives towards the execution of its plans and realization of its objectives. As representatives of the people of St. Maarten, government looks forward to fruitful, effective, and efficient dialogue, as well as your committed participation, this with the aim of garnering your support to serve the public interest on behalf of the people of St. Maarten. Madam Chairlady, members of Parliament, I wish you much success this new parliamentary year, and I pray for your wisdom and discernment. Thank you. God bless you and yours, and God bless our great nation, St. Maarten. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for that address. Thank you so very much for your words. With this, distinguished guests, I hereby declare the parliamentary year 2024-2025 officially opened. I now will ask the Reception and Departure Committee to accompany His Excellency the Governor and his entourage to the conference room. Please rise for the exit of His Excellency the Governor. I would like to thank the Reception and Departure Committee for the splendid execution of your task, and you are hereby discharged of your duties. Members of Parliament, ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all for your presence at this meeting for the opening of the parliamentary year 2024-2025, and I herewith close this solemn meeting.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated as the President of Parliament and the Prime Minister, accompanied by the Secretary General of Parliament and the Secretary General of the Council of Ministers, exit the hall. The President of the Collectivité of Saint Maarten will now exit the hall as well and make his way to the conference room. Before I continue, allow me to remind you that after viewing the parade, all dignitaries and guests will have a brief moment to interact with the elementary school students before proceeding to the reception venue via the Saraswati Square and the boardwalk. I would now like to invite the members of Parliament to leave the hall. The Council of Ministers may now also exit the hall. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. You may now also exit the hall to make your way outside the building to view the parade. Please follow the directions of the staff of the Secretariat of Parliament, who will guide you to the Saraswati Square. Thank you.
Your barrier is like picking it up.
You got a signal for me? Yeah. Give me a second. Okay, we'll go to the... I won't be able to get them much down the street. Again, shots from under the tent. Open by Larry. Helping out people.
Teacher, I can't. I don't want to go see the gentleman. You can leave. You look at the gentleman wings.